All right, guys. So the George Floyd statues that have been going up over the past week or so, starting on Juneteenth, have been vandalized. And anybody with a brain knew that that was probably going to happen. Okay, and I'm just going to say right off the bat, it is wrong to vandalize public property and statues. Okay, I'm gonna be consistent on this, unlike the left, right? Which is the whole point of this video. But you know, it's not a surprise at all, okay? Because like I said, the left started this. They started this whole thing of wanting to vandalize statues and take them down because they don't agree with what that person did in the past or their politics. So they started doing all this, okay? And now, like I always tell you guys, you know, the pendulum always swings the other way when it comes to politics. It's happening to figures that they want to memorialize. And here we are again, doing another story about Shaun King, aka Talcum X, okay, aka Snow J Simpson, aka WEB the fraud, right? He wants justice for the vandalized George Floyd statue, although a year ago he demanded Jesus statues be torn down. Okay. The irony in this is absolutely incredible. It really is. Right? Justice for George Floyd, tear down Jesus statues. This is the world that we're living in, guys. This is 2021. We have people in this country that think like this, right? It blows my mind. So let's read here. Activist and author Shaun King has a message for those who vandalized a George Floyd statue in Brooklyn, New York. He wants justice for the George Floyd statue, and he'll do everything he can to get it. It was just a year ago that King was calling for statues to be pulled down in the name of social justice, proclaiming fully that tearing down statues as a form of political speech was a necessary and laudable act. Now that the spray paint is being used by his political opposition, King is using his Twitter reach to attempt to find those who spray painted George Floyd's Brooklyn bus and bring them to justice, likely with those same police who he sought to defund. He shared police video along with his notion of the license plate's number. He posted the footage from his friend who saw these white men pull up in the middle of a black neighborhood in the middle of the night and knew something was off. These are white men leaving after painting bigotry on the George Floyd statue here in Brooklyn. They did a U-turn to avoid street cameras. They clearly knew where they were. Okay, so I believe that Shaun King deleted that tweet because I can't see it anymore with the license plate number. King doesn't believe that this vandalism was a part of the right to free speech at all, it seems. But a year ago, he called for the destruction of the statue of white Jesus. What King said was that he thinks statues of the white European they claim to be Jesus needs to be torn down because they are a form of white supremacy, and they have always been. So as you can see here, he says, yes, I think the statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. They are a form of white supremacy. Always have been. In the Bible, when the family of Jesus wanted to hide and blend in, guess where they went? Egypt, not Denmark. Tear them down. Oh my God, these people on the left are insane. These people are out of their minds. He said that all murals and stained glass windows of white Jesus and his European mother and their white friends should also come down, saying that they are a form of white supremacy. These, he said, are a gross form of white supremacy. Yes, all murals and stained glass of white Jesus and his European mother and their white friends should also come down. They are a gross form of white supremacy created as tools of oppression, racist propaganda. They should all come down. 1 year ago, King called for the same kind of political action that he now wants to be prosecuted. Okay, so Shaun King is calling for justice for a George Floyd statue. When just a year ago, he was calling for statues of Jesus to be torn down. This right here, guys, clearly demonstrates how the woke revolutionaries have hijacked this narrative about George Floyd to make this man out to be some type of figure that should almost be worshipped to a certain extent. Okay? How can you sit here and make the argument that his statue should be up and that can't be vandalized while Jesus statues of Jesus, a major religious figure, right? A major religious figure. Those should be torn down. Like, I don't understand how you rationalize that. I really don't. I understand, that Shaun King may feel triggered by statues or images of Jesus Christ depicted as a white man. I understand if you feel triggered by that, right? But that still doesn't mean that his statue should be pulled down just because you feel like he's being depicted incorrectly. You may be triggered by that, but again, that doesn't justify bringing down the statue. It's just a depiction. Nobody that's alive today was alive during when Jesus lived. So nobody truly really knows what race he actually was or what color he was. And personally, I don't know what his race or color was, and I really don't care. But if I was a betting man, okay, I probably would say that, hey, he probably more than likely was of Middle Eastern descent. Okay, but if you've ever seen anybody from the Middle East, some of those people look white, right? You know what I'm saying? You can't tell the difference between a lot of Middle Eastern people and white people. Okay, this idea that statues of white Jesus need to be taken down because it's a form of white supremacy, I think that's really silly. Okay, if you're religious, right, you can have your own interpretation of what you think Jesus looked like. I really don't think it matters, right? It doesn't matter what race Jesus was. What really matters was his message, which was a message of forgiveness, redemption, and eternal salvation if you accept him into your life and follow his teachings. And in my opinion, that's really what matters, right? That's really what matters. People want to get caught up on his race and his skin color. It's like, dude, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Nobody was alive to know exactly what he looked like. So it doesn't matter what he looked like, right? It doesn't matter. It's not the point. You can have your own interpretation based off your understanding. But no, people on the left like Shaun King, they want to have it their way like his Burger King or something, right? That's what they want. And for the life of me, I just don't understand that how, from a principled perspective, if you think that tearing down statues is a form of political speech, then how can you be mad when George Floyd statues are vandalized? Because you've supported vandalization of statues all last year because your side was doing it. Your people were doing it. You was like, oh, it's right because we agree with it. But now it happens in a form that you don't agree with, and all of a sudden you're calling for so-called justice. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And this is the thing about the left, guys. They don't have any principles. They think they're standing on morality, right? And that they're on the right side of history, but they're really not. You're not standing on any morality because you don't have any morals. You don't have any morals. A moral person would not ask for statues of Jesus to be taken down, right? He wouldn't ask for that. That's not what a moral person would do. And a principled person would not boohoo, whine, and cry and ask for justice for a George Floyd statue when that's vandalized after you basically encouraged people and condoned vandalization of statues all last year. And it really blows my mind that you have actual politicians like Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York City out here calling the vandalization of George Floyd's statue a hate crime, okay, an act of hate. But yet none of these politicians had anything to say, particularly these politicians on the left, when it came to vandalizing and destruction of statues of past presidents like Teddy Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln. They didn't call that an act of hate. They called those people peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters. Okay? That's what they called it. They called it political speech. It's their right to do that. They got on Trump for basically saying, listen, yeah, no, it should be a crime to vandalize public property. They got on Trump, tried to call him racist for that. But yet, when your people do it, you don't care. You don't care. And then you want to boohoo and whine and cry foul when it happens to you. That's what really gets me, man, about the left. That's what really gets me. They just don't have any principles whatsoever. You're okay, totally okay with vandalizing statues of a major religious figure, somebody like Abraham Lincoln, who again was an essential part of freeing slaves, right? And ending slavery, the same thing that the woke revolutionaries love complaining about, which is slavery all day, right? They want us to still feel bad about what happened in slavery. They still want us to whine and cry about that. Teddy Roosevelt, whom, in my opinion, is probably my favorite president. He was the first president to have dinner with a black man, Booker T. Washington, in the White House. Okay, Booker T. Washington, I feel like, is probably one of the greatest figures in American history as well. Okay. Oh no, you guys are cool with the vandalization of those statues because you think that, oh, they did bad things because you have problems with them, right? Specifically Abraham Lincoln, they try to say, well, even though he, helped free the slaves, he did some bad things to the Native Americans, while at the same time, Native Americans own slaves, right? Native Americans own slaves. And I guarantee you, they're going to come for MLK in the future. Because if you read the FBI files on him, MLK wasn't exactly a saint, right? He wasn't exactly a saint in terms of the things he was doing in his private life. So they'll probably come after him next. But my point is that nobody is perfect, okay? All major figures throughout history have been flawed, right? Now, I mean, again, if if you're Christian, you think that Jesus was perfect, okay? But besides that, right, I'm just saying, a vast majority of major figures throughout history have been flawed. And this moral relativism that is happening in 2021 and in our time is really silly because it was different back then. People had a different set of morals and standards back then. That's just what it is. Just like they had a different way of life. They had a different way of approaching things, right? Some things that were acceptable back then are not acceptable today. It is what it is. Humans evolve over time. Things change over time. But you have to understand the context of history in the time period. Does it make it right? No. Obviously, slavery was not right during the time. Okay? It just wasn't right. We know that murder and pillaging and, destroying cities and stuff like that, not right. Right? It wasn't right. Wasn't right then. Also, it's not right now. Okay? Which is why, it really blows my mind that these moral relativists, they love trying to use that to judge people of the past, but they don't want to use their own standards to judge themselves when they're out here destroying cities, right? And property and doing things that are costing people their lives. Oh, no, it's all right. We agree with it. It's from our side, so it doesn't matter anymore. We don't care about our morals. It's really silly stuff, man. It really is. But like I said, it just blows my mind how they've elevated George Floyd, right, to this status of almost like a deity to a certain extent. Okay, to the point where, again, you can justify taking down statues of Jesus and great presidents and great figures in history that have been integral parts of American history. And you can take those things down because they flawed in some way, as if George Floyd wasn't flawed. George Floyd was a flawed man just like all those other guys was flawed. So again, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.